You there?
Hey, Lauren.
Hello. Hi there. There. I don't know if Dershowitz is coming here or not, but can I then let him use my laptop if I'm using my iPad?
I think so. You guys are gonna have to.
Yeah, I logged in. I'm there. They muted me. So
Okay, you guys are ready to whatever you want.
So
Thanks for your patience, because I've never been the administrator of a meeting before, and Wendy Miss is joining. So if something goes screwy, I apologize, but I'm not exactly that savvy with this application. So
Chuck looks like Biden over there with his earphones in the basement.
well, he doesn't have a mask on yet.
Oh.
He's got to have one hanging off his ear.
That's what I'm talking about. So I don't know the format of this. Do you want to give him the ground rules legally, Dave?
Yeah, sure. So it was noticed for a study session, and there was a little bit of confusion as far as, because the topic in the study session was going to be the procedure for replacing or recommending a replacement for the retiring fire chief. And, in an executive session, you do things like interviews and talk about individual candidates, right? This was, at least the way it was explained to me, was that you guys wanted to talk about how are you going to go about the process. So generally speaking, without talking about specific candidates, if it's just talking about the process, then it had to be done in a study session as opposed to an executive session. When you go to do your interviews, obviously those will be done in an executive session, and whatever decision comes from the executive session or recommendation, then that has to be approved at a public meeting, either regularly scheduled or a special public meeting. But for purposes of today, my understanding was you just wanted to talk about the different options you have on the table.
Everybody else did. Let's see. Did you go back to your? Hang on a second. We got Mike trying to get in. So, do you have your email?
I think I can separately invite him.
Okay, wait. He's gonna try and invite you separately here. So Dave's gonna.
One second. I gotta. What's Mike's email address?
What's your email address? MCLIARK M Clark.
Yep.
4250.
Got it.
Did you hear what he said? No, I was asking Dave.
At Comcast.net.
At Comcast.net, yeah.
All right, so I'm sending him a separate invite right now.
So you got a new email.
Should be there in a minute. Morning, Wendy.
I can leave you just on verbal if you don't want to have your picture. Put you on speaker. It's the worst. Are you at home or what? What? Oh, okay. He sent the email. Yeah, you should have it.
Yeah, it came from me and I just did it 2 minutes ago.
While we have crickets in the background, can I, Dr. Dershowitz?
Hi.
Hi, good morning. As part of the Board of Safety, we needed to get a surety bond for you, which I have. I just need you to stop by the office at some point and sign it, and then I can have to have it notarized, which Ish in the town manager's office can do. I attest to it, and then we file one more thing with the Lake County Recorder's Office.
Okay.
You get it yet, Mike?
Yeah, I'm gonna hang up and try it.
Okay. You got the email, so he's gonna try and pop on here.
Okay.
If not, I'll just put him on speaker and maybe we can send Jerry over there to show him how to do it.
Hey, I had John Lawrence help me out.
Modern technology. It's all working.
He says that we got the wrong link.
Got what they sent.
Yeah.
We didn't send it.
Well, what I sent him was right through the app, so it should, I mean, it's the one that's in progress right now, so. And I think on my end, I should see him when he's trying to join, and I don't have anything yet, so.
I'm gonna call John and have him call him.
Did Mike say whether he tried to get on through the link that Dustin had originally sent?
I don't know.
Yes, Mike.
And it's still with my phone because that passcode, it doesn't read the passcode when I try to log in.
You don't have to enter the passcode. You just have, it's like, don't you just push on it? Isn't it just a blue thing?
There is a password involved, Dr. Brown.
Oh, I didn't have to use one.
Nor did I.
Nor did I.
Well,
I did.
yeah, if he would just call, I can give him the passcode.
Is it, do you have 871412?
That's it.
871-412.
Yes.
I'm hitting that. It's telling me, it's saying you pushed 2211, not the valid code, even though I'm hitting the right code.
Okay, call this number, Mike. Call 219-712-6758. That's the
Hold on. What is that?
219-712-6758. And that's going to be John, the IT guy from the police, John Lawrence, and he'll get you in.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Okay, we can go on. We got a quorum, if that's even counts.
Yeah, so my understanding is you just wanted to talk about the procedure for, making, how you're going to go about, you're going to conduct interviews, you're going to advertise, how you're going to go about the selection or recommendation of a selection for the police chief, or I'm sorry, the fire chief.
Yeah, let's get that straight.
Echo is not going anywhere that we know of. So,
Yeah, let's not change this topic here too much.
no, it's the fire chief. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the way I see it also is just that today is kind of just making sure that we, one, kind of review what the town's policy is, and if it's different than what state statute would say because of the Board of Safety. Two, at least get the job description to the different board members so they're aware of what the job description is. I did forward a fire department flow chart just so you can kind of see the organizational structure of the fire department. I don't think it's really that important. But again, it just kind of gives the Board of Safety, especially newer members like Dr. Dershowitz, an idea, a little bit of the operation of what's over there. And then I think if we can kind of create some type of a timeline between job posting, the application period, when we do the interviews, and I think the starting date, Chief Pelk was looking, I think, at the end of January to retire, that kind of thing. And then the last two items would just be how much do we want to involve Chief Pelk in some of this stuff. If again, I did talk to Chief Pelk and the town manager, Dustin Anderson, yesterday, just to kind of get some general overviews of what they're thinking, see if there's anything from the town. And then selection criteria, again, just very broad, basic things. So that's kind of how I see a lot of this stuff today.
So since you did the groundwork, Chuck, do you want to just lead with the data?
I would ask Dave, and again, I don't think there's going to be much difference between town policy and state statute. But again, one of the things with the fire chief's position, from my understanding, what's a little bit different from this opening compared to the last two openings is the fire chief actually passed away while he was in the position, and these became kind of an immediate type filling the position where that was Fire Chief Novacek and Jimmy Kniezek. So here's a little bit different from that standpoint, but again, part of it is there's going to be some people that are in-house that are or that are currently working for the volunteer paid on-call fire department that will be interested in this position. So part of it is how much do we advertise this job in-house, which I think per town code is probably 72 hours or something like that. And then do we still want to announce this, kind of a regional or national type search, understanding that our fire department's unique compared to other departments that are, 100% what they call career fire departments and things like that. So, but part of it is, and then there's the Board of Safety. There's always been I think a blurred line between the Board of Safety and like the Board of Parks and Recreation and the town council on how people get hired. The park board most recently, I think if we can use as an example, and Dave Westland, if I'm saying anything that's wrong, let me know, or Wendy.
No, I'm waiting to jump in. You're doing
fine. The Board of Parks and Recreation did the interviews for the recent park director. Technically, they really didn't make any recommendations. They just hired that park director, and that's fine. I don't think there's any issues with that. However, there is a little bit of the town council. The way it was explained to me when I was the Parks and Recreation director is the Board of Parks and Recreation was able to hire me, but the town council authorizes the payment to pay the park director. And so I think there's a, just by the sheer nature, there should be some working together on this thing so we can make sure that one board's not doing something that the other board or council doesn't know what's going on at all. So I think there has to be some coordination that way. Go ahead, Dave. Again, is there anything different between what the Board of Safety can do when they announce this position and what I guess the town current employee handbook says?
No. Let me go back to what you just said about the roles of the different groups. I think you're generally correct, Chuck, when you say that like in the instance of the park board does the hiring, okay, and I think similarly the fire chief reports to the Board of Safety, and so the Board of Safety would technically be the body that would do the hiring. I always refer to it more as a recommendation, only because, and the way I'm referring to it isn't technically and legally correct, because ultimately you do have the authority to do the hiring. But what Chuck said, I think, is pretty key, that sure, you could hire whoever you want, but then the council could turn around and drop the salary for the position. So, there was an instance years ago in this town, and I'm not going to tell you which position, but it was, oh, Mike's ready to get admitted. Hang on. I think Mike's going to join with the iPhone now. Mike, are you there? He's connecting. Let's see if he. All right. Well, I'm going to assume he's going to connect here in a second. But the point is that years ago there was a search for one of those chief spots, and there was some disagreement amongst they got it down to a couple of candidates, and there was some disagreement. And, I guess the Board of Safety serves, by appointment of the council or the executive, depending on which spot. And, my point to the safety board would be, yeah, you need to work in concert, because you want the town council to be comfortable with your selection, because, they're going to pay the salary. And ultimately, as a department head, while the fire chief does report to you, it's a little blurry, because he also has to report from time to time to the council. So I think there has to be some thought in terms of some form of collaborative effort with the council. And maybe it's a situation, and it's your call, but maybe it's a situation where, the larger group of applicants gets narrowed down to a smaller group of like 2 or 3. And then that's when you bring Chuck's obviously here as a liaison, but then maybe at that point, the final interviews are done with more than just one council member. And we can do that as long as we notice it correctly.
Wait, first, Mike, are you in?
I'm in. Can you guys hear me or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. So I always thought that we were the recommendation board, not the hiring, like salary or not. I thought the difference between us and the park board was the park board can even make their own taxes, right?
Park board can make their own taxes.
And that they were sort of like the school board, but appointed. So in other words, the school board gets their own elections, their own taxes, and their own entity. They're not part of the town at all, but the park board fell under us, under the town, but they could do their own taxes, and therefore they could do their own hiring. But we could only, everything I've been told, we recommend, like we might hold a trial on a fireman or a policeman and decide if they should be fired or not. And we could say our recommendation is he be fired, but then it just got kicked up, and the town council had to officially do it. But if that's not the law, then that's just what I've been told.
Yeah, it's a little blurry. So yeah, you would hold the ultimate investigation and make the decision in that situation. If that particular fireman decided to appeal, their appeal is to, or that policeman appeal, their first appeal is to the council. But you are the decision-making authority. So, yeah.
But I thought they were appealing to us. They appealed to us after their chief said you're fired. Then they appeal to us, and then we recommend.
He makes the recommendation to you. You do the firing or suspension of more than 5 days, 5 days or more. And then if he doesn't like that, then they can appeal to the council. So yeah, you're kind of right. And I think from a practical standpoint, what you do have is a recommendation in terms of the hiring because of the fact that the council holds the purse strings, but legally and technically, you're doing the hiring.
Oh, okay.
You're closer to the park board in that regard than I think you understood.
Dave, can I just ask a question here?
Sure.
Dave, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just wondering here. So if the board makes a recommendation to the town council, if for some reason the town council thinks it's totally misguided, does the council have the authority to dissolve the board?
Not dissolve the board, but you guys are all up for reappointment. And I'd have to look at it. I'd ask Wendy. She's probably got that at. Maybe it's unfair to ask her this at 7:15 in the morning. But,
Dr. Dershowitz, this is your first meeting. You can't get off this easy.
but your appointments do come up, in a staggered fashion. So yeah, they could systematically pick you off, right? Is basically what they could do if they didn't like what the decision. It's not a difference of opinion on who to hire is not a for-cause reason to get rid of you, but there's nothing saying you've got to be reappointed.
Okay.
And I think there's certainly,
So this would just,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I think there's a willingness to work together. And if it's me as a liaison from the council and another council member, I think you can get a pretty good handle on what the council is going to, what our thoughts are. If we're, in the initial interviews or the initial narrowing down the applicants, and then again, there could be conversations between council liaisons and the Board of Safety. I think that's the main thing is communication throughout this process rather than just a group of people doing interviews and then at the last, last section of the process here, then we say, okay, here's our guy and nobody knows about it. So as long as we keep communication, I don't see any issues with this.
Yeah, which is basically the point of my question about fostering the spirit of cooperation rather than have a very top-down type of approach.
Yeah, I think we can have that communication throughout, and I think that's kind of where we get into some of the timeline of how the Board of Safety looks at doing this this search / interviews / selection process. And I don't know, part of me also says that I think there's a value in having the town manager kind of oversee the job posting, have him create a job the job posting, have that sent back to the Board of Safety for their review. And again, hopefully today we can kind of get some type of a general timeline that we can say, this is what we want to work within.
Okay. Next. Anything else, Chuck?
No, I don't want to take over the whole meeting.
Okay. Mike, do you have you've been here, you and
So previously when we've went for chiefs, we've used outside firms to help do the recruiting, posting, initial phone screens, and part of that process. Is there any feeling on using a search?
you gotta stand outside, Mike.
Say that again?
Well, I think his question was, is there any any thought of going with a search firm to do the initial application, generate applications, generate potential candidates for this position from a national standpoint?
At least regional.
Understandable.
Anybody have any opinion? Jerry, you're the next oldest, I think. Or
Well, Mike and I were the same. My question is, what happens if we don't get someone in place by the time Chief Pelk retires?
Well, I think they have enough personnel that are there that can run fire, and they wouldn't make policy, they wouldn't change their laws, but they would have enough to cover the town because they run by battalions and whatever.
Isn't there an assistant fire chief? I'm blanking on Stripiak. Isn't he the assistant
Yes.
currently? So if there was any gap, I would think that he would.
Well, the problem, I mean, I don't know, we have to ask them, but the problem with his position is that he was put in there to do the book work and the computer work and that kind of stuff. Not that he doesn't know the rest, but he's out of town a lot as a traveling salesman, and you can't have a chief that's traveling or a traveling job.
And I would say, Jerry, I think the main thing is now we do have a portion, about 4 or 5 months, that we should be able to get this in line. If that became a situation, then I think the Board of Safety would almost have to name an interim fire chief. If things were happening that we weren't getting to actually naming it full time. But there are a couple battalion chiefs. I think there's 2 battalion chiefs and a deputy chief that have experience of kind of leading the operation, at least if Chief Pelk was on vacation or some other things like that. So
Well, you do run into the issue, though, of if we don't select the battalion chief or the assistant captain, but we make them interim, why didn't we select them? And if they wanted to be part of the process, they're getting, they're part of it, then we have a little issue trying to figure out why we didn't select them.
Didn't we select them? I thought we voted on the battalion chiefs, at least, if not the lieutenants. I remember we used to do interviews of just the lieutenant.
There's a difference between a battalion chief and the chief of the department.
Yeah.
No. Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Mike, and I think there is also, and I think that's why it's important that we really look at this thing and make sure that we understand the dynamics of a fire department. That there's usually different groups of people, even though it's one department. There's a number of different groups of people that make up a fire department. And people are going to have their feelings.
I have a question regarding what Mike had stated about an outside agency. Is there some kind of a budget that we have for this, or if the town has established a budget?
I would think right now there's been no budget that's set up for this, since it's kind of a unique situation. If that was the wish of the Board of Safety, I think we would have to solicit some companies that do this type of work, some human resource companies or some municipal type employee firms, and that would probably take about a week to 2 weeks to probably get those, at least some general information, some general dollars for those.
Haven't we typically, and maybe historically, and Wendy or Chuck or Dr. Brown, haven't we historically used an outside agency to do that sort of, posting for us?
The only one the last one was the chief of police. But in my tenure, like they said, that both guys just died, and we just I think they just took I don't know how they did it. How, Jerry or Mike, how did you get to Pelt?
So I've been part of 3, maybe 4 chief turnovers and 1, 2, 3 fire chiefs and 4 police chiefs. And every single time, with the exception of maybe Pelk, we used an outside firm. Putting an ad in the paper is not going to get the pool of candidates that we want if we want to go outside and bring someone in. And there are firms who do this. They know people they will at least reach out to a lot of regional people. You know, you will increase your selection pool by using a firm to do this. Plus, they will help in that phone screen, in the explanation of who we are, what we're looking for, help in that initial weeding out process. They can be part of the final process if we want. We don't have to make them that. They can help us with questions. You know, we can use them any way we want. But we have almost always, since I've been on this board, used an outside agency for a chief.
Except for Chief Kanasik.
Pelk was too. He was
Well-
outside. I mean, he was not part of a process.
Well, the first chief was Novacek back in what, 88, 84, somewhere in that area. And then Novacek was chief until 2005, until then Jimmy Kniezek took over as a part-time operations / fire chief. I think Jimmy Kniezek was just, because he was picked really over the top of Dave Pelk. Pelk had a higher position back at that time than what Kniezek did, I think. And then I wasn't around when Pelk was hired. And was Pelk a national searcher or regional?
I think DeJulius told us he was the next chief, didn't he?
Yes.
They said he had a full-time job at the town, and it would save us money to just flip him over and do both, and to just give him the salary to do the one. Because before he did it for a while as like half and half or something. He did monitoring the station. You know, he did all the physical work in the stations as a town employee, and then he got made part-time chief, and then we decided we needed a full-time chief somehow. I lost track of that, but it was because DeJulio just kept telling us what to do. You remember it that way, Mike, or?
Yeah.
Oh, one of them, like I said, I thought it was Pelk. One of them, we wanted to stay inside for financial reasons, and that was probably Kniezek.
Well, I think it was both of them then. He was just brought up, and because I remember he was just brought up as the logical person financially, and he was the highest fire department person at the time,
and it was financial for the town for the job, since he was already on the parks or the whatever department he was, or streets, as opposed to having a full-time paid chief.
Right. And then he said he couldn't keep doing the two part-time, it was too much for him to do the physical labor of the town and this, so they made him the one.
And again, I'm not really pushing either option of a search. I know what the Parks Department just did is they advertised the position in different local and state journals. You know, the Parks and Recreation Association of Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, and I'm sure there's fire chief, fire department journals throughout the regional and local areas. That is another option that really is minor money when you start talking about you know, announcements here, announcements there. So again, that's kind of like, I guess, the third option, and I think that would be an option even if we looked at just strictly in-house. I think you owe it a little bit that you have to open this up to something outside of just the town of Munster and, you know, current fire department. Even if the end result is somebody in-house, it does make some sense to at least open it up a bigger picture, a bigger envelope than just the town of Munster.
Can we use the same search company that did it for our police chief?
I think we
Or-
should choose.
Or is that just for police chiefs?
No, I think we should go with some new person, some new company that doesn't have any ties to anybody. You know, some new entity that's probably a better. I didn't think they were particularly good the way they did it. They were sort of slanted to start with. And they were slanted the outside way. They were good. They were bound and determined to bring in one of their guys on there. They have like a list of people that they're trying to get jobs for. That's what they are, job search companies. I have a cousin that runs one for deans of nursing in universities, and they just keep a stable of people that are looking for jobs, and then they try and push it. They try and push it on somebody, and they get their fee for coming up with the guy. So I would go for some firm that was more maybe didn't have people lined up, that were just more.
I think the space is so small that no matter what firm you get in this space, they're gonna have people. And yeah, they have people. I see it a little differently. I've used search firms for people on my staff. Yeah, they have people they can recommend, but you're not obligated to hire anybody. You can tell them the why in the search. You could, they'll be upfront. This person has this background. This person has this background. I don't know this person. They're new to us. I don't see it quite like them pushing someone on us.
What are we asking, or what would we be asking the search firm to do?
I guess give us a pool of applicants.
Help us develop the job description. Help us recruit regionally, and help us coordinate and set up the initial interview process. Or lead the entire process until a candidate is selected, and help with the offer.
Yeah, and I guess that's what that could either be done, in-house, or that could be done, and we could research and try to find at least 2 or 3 different companies' quotes. Again, there's gonna that we can at least bring some pricing back and some ideas back of what that cost would be. I do know that most of those, again, it's I don't know if there's anything in Northwest Indiana. You would either have a downstate at Indianapolis firm kind of leading this up, or a suburban Chicago firm leading up this type of a search. And there will be some differences between the suburban Chicago firm, departments that are career firemen compared to, I shouldn't say the majority of Northwest Indiana, but certainly what Munster with the paid on call staff is, which is a little bit unique from the standpoint of, career moves and things along that nature.
So Chuck, do you want to take the lead on that and get us companies, or does somebody else have?
What I would do is I would ask the town manager to solicit 2 or 3 companies and get prices from that, get some quotes, with the idea that what we're looking for a search firm to do is to review and update the job description, recruit regionally for applicants, and then to at least set up the interview process.
To do an initial screening also.
Initial screening.
in that it's not maybe to weed out, it's more to explain our specific situation with the paid on call and who we are and what the position looks like and what the day-to-day looks like. Somebody might not want that. We would want candidates to understand exactly what they're walking into.
Yeah. It's job description. Yeah, there's got to be a description of the departments, something along that line, department description. What is the time frame if we start looking back, starting back at Chief Pelk's retirement? Did the letter, I don't have the letter in front of me. Did it say January 31st?
It did.
Of 2021?
Yes.
So if we're working our way backwards, when would you like a selection of the candidate? Are we looking at January 15th so we can have 2 weeks of him working on the job, or him or her working on the job, or do we,
I think someone may have to get out of where they are. That's 2 weeks, maybe a month. Or if someone's moving here, it's a little longer than that. Mm-hmm. Plus that backs you up to the holiday. I would say you have to name somebody by December 15th if you want them in place January 31st.
Okay. Which means that initial interviews, we're probably looking at sometime in November 1st, kind of starting the interview process. Is that?
Not if you're going to name them by the 15th. I mean, you're going to pretty much have to start it in the middle of October at the latest. If you're aiming for November 15th, if you're aiming for December 15th, it's a different story. But I'm saying, if you're going to name them,
just said December 15th.
No, I thought.
I think what Mike said, December 15th of naming a fire chief makes sense, especially with the holidays and how he mentions it. I think December 15th naming it makes sense.
Right. I thought you said November 15th. Mike, what did you say?
He did.
I said at the latest December.
So ideally by Mike?
Yeah.
Mike, ideally by when?
But naming the chief by December 15th. So are we doing second round interviews? Are we, the offer could take up to a week. So, I mean, we have to, the person has to say yes by then, but we have to name them. I would say make that offer closer to December 1st.
Okay. That weekend, the weekend before that is Thanksgiving. So.
Okay, so what we're looking at, if we start interviews around October 15th to give 6 weeks of first round interviews and then a review of that with a potential bringing people back for a second round interview. If we look at 6 weeks of interviews, then we're looking at October 15th of starting interviews. So we're really, we're pretty close to that time frame of we have to make an announcement. Probably has to be announced for 3 to 4 weeks or something along those lines also. So and we're already sitting here at September 10th.
Yeah, we're pressed against the wall for time wise right now.
Okay.
Because then we got to schedule meetings. We have to review the search committees and vote on which one or recommend which one we want. We have to see before we even go that route if the full council wants to spend the money to do it.
There is money available to do a search, so I think that shouldn't be a consideration to hire a firm.
Okay.
The main issue probably though is it's going to take us at least 2 weeks to get those get quotes from different search firms back to this board. I would think. Wendy, don't you think it's?
I'm looking at the calendar and I'm thinking by the time you, at least internally, get a job description together and then solicit bids, I would say it's fair by the end of like the 25th of September, we should have all the information together and be soliciting bids for a firm. And then that gives us all of October, have a 2-week window perhaps to turn in applications, and then the search committee would, or the search firm would have 2 weeks perhaps to narrow that down. And then that would all come back to us in early November. And then we would have to really, on a strict timeline, have them narrow it down to 5 candidates. We narrow it down to 3 and then interview them. But yeah, I think that the sooner we can get that to the a search organized, even maybe by the 18th, if we could ask the town manager's office to have that.
I agree. I think you need to have whomever the search committee is going to be, you need to have them go and hit the ground the last week of September, which would be the 28th, going into October 1st. I'm looking at a calendar. I mean, even then, it's a pretty tight timeline for them to bring you the applicants in October, you to interview early November, and you've got Thanksgiving, and then, you know, kind of everything goes goofy with the holidays. So if you're going to have the town manager get the quotes, probably needs to do that
This week, next week.
Yeah, right. I mean, you don't really have there's not a lot of wiggle room here.
And I think I don't know how current the job descriptions are. And so he's gonna have a challenge updating those files too, so.
The most recent job description that I received from the town manager and fire chief was from July of 2015.
Oh, okay.
Not bad.
And
No,
so what I can also try to do is I'll try to scan this now and send this out to everyone following this meeting. So at least the people on this phone call will have that job description from 2015.
Chuck, you had also said something about a flow chart for the department. I don't remember getting that. Could you send that out too?
Yeah, it would have been just sent out this morning while we were on the phone call.
Oh, okay.
But I will send that out with the position description immediately following this meeting.
Thank you.
If I know how to work the scan machine on my computer. You might just get pictures of it.
Were you going to say something, Dave?
I was just going to say that, you know, the job description of July of 2015 should have been reviewed. And I say should have and underline the word should when we when we had the HR director and they were going through and rewriting the policy manual. I think every position was, my understanding was that every position was allegedly reviewed. And, you know, the July 2015 report or job description there should have been eyes on it in the last 2 years. So I don't know if that happened or not, but hopefully there's not a lot of rewriting that needs to be done there.
Yeah, I thought we voted on it, didn't we, Mike? And
I thought so too.
Yeah.
I thought we voted on when they changed all that stuff, and that was after they appointed Stribiak, the whatever he's called, the assistant chief or the
Deputy, maybe.
deputy chief.
He might be the volunteer battalion chief in charge of operations.
Okay.
Deputy?
No, because I think he was.
No, I thought it was
chief to his
deputy.
name.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something to do with chief.
And did Pelk say in his letter, I forget, that he would consider staying off for 2 or 3 months longer if we needed him to?
I don't think he said that, but I was thinking the same thing, Mike, that might be the interim fire chief is just having him stick around for another month or 2 months.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere. He always just put a deadline when he turned.
Yeah, to me, that's first option, in my opinion.
That makes sense to me also, Mike. I think that's a good point. Well, again, what we can do here is we can at least bring back to the Board of Safety the value add of having a search firm lead this up and get the cost back to you guys so you can review that. And I think we can get that turned around pretty quickly, or we have to get it turned around pretty quickly.
Yes.
So, well, our first thing for quickly and whatever is to directly ask Pelk if he'll stay on if we're tight. If he says absolutely not, I'm leaving, then we know we're tight. If we're not tight, I hate to rush through something just to get it done. And, you know, just to get it out of the way by a certain date, even though that tends to procrastinate, we're going over a time when you got 2 or 3 holidays. You got the New Year's, you got Christmas, and you got Thanksgiving. That's going to knock out a big section of our time. So if we could find out from Pelk if he would stay on, whether I can talk to him or you can talk to him, I don't really care, whichever way you want to go, and just see if he would stay on. If we aim for this timeline. I'm not saying we don't aim for it, but I'm saying if we know that we don't have to, you know, cut corners to get a good search.
No, I think it's a good point, and I'm thinking, who's the right person to have that conversation? Is it the town manager? Is it the council? Or is it?
No, I think it'd be Chuck or us, because that would give him a feeling of being wanted. Maybe needed.
I am more than happy to talk to him. I think probably it's best, Doc Brown, if you have it, if we can find some time to talk to him. I think 2 of us talking to him makes him feel better, and I think we can probably get a better answer. And then also it allows, just in case I take a different interpretation of what he's saying, at least we have two heads on it and 2 minds looking at it. So, but I don't have a problem being one of the 2 people.
Okay, then you just tell me when you want to do it.
Okay.
And try and make it late in the day or early in the day.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Not during surgery. It gets sort of messy.
No comments.
All right, so we'll have you guys will talk to Pelk and get back to us as soon as you can. And additionally, we'll task the town manager and staff to find us some firms and solicit bids and have that information back to us as soon as possible, hopefully by October 1st.
Yeah, that's just over 2 weeks. Yes. I think our goal, our timeline is that last week in September. For October 1st would be a good timeline to try to get that stuff back to everybody here.
Sounds good.
Good.
Anything else we have to do, Dave?
No, I mean, it's a study session, so it's pretty wide open in terms of, what you want to discuss. I mean, there aren't any members of the public that have chimed into this meeting. So, I know the main item on the agenda was this topic. So I think it's the only item on the agenda.
So are you saying that there's we could discuss anything, or it's limited to that?
I'm saying, let me look at your notice real quick. I'm not finding the actual notice of this meeting.
It's from way back when we've got that first letter from Nancy, is when she had just given notice.
It was sunshined on Thursday, September 3rd.
The sunshine isn't when she, oh, that's when the notice would be given.
Yeah, that's when she told me that she sent it out.
On the 3rd, yeah, I don't have an email from her.
Do we need to talk about anything else?
I don't know if there's anything you want to talk about.
No, I was gonna ask you guys if you had something, because we're not gonna have we're gonna have so many meetings with this that we don't need a meeting for the rest, for police or anything during September. So we don't have to meet again for that. We're gonna have a different format that Chuck, can we bring that up, Chuck? I mean, can we talk it? That you wanted to have those talks or whatever?
I just, you know, I think there's going to be some goals and objectives that, you know, one of the main things that the council has always looked at is creating a safe and livable community for the town, and that always comes back to the police and fire departments. I guess part of what I've mentioned to you and mentioned to Chief Shekel is if there's issues that he has or things that he wants the Board of Safety to discuss, that he should bring them to the Board of Safety. So there's nothing in particular regarding that.
I thought you just wanted to have educational meetings.
Well, you know, if Chief, and again, next year's accreditation too for Kalia, and I think the more that he can bring information to the Board of Safety so they're familiar with what is happening, I think is good. Again, from a standpoint, I want it to be really led by what issues that chiefs and the police department seeing. Overall, they do a great job with what they do. I just want to make sure that they're giving the citizens board, which is the Board of Safety, a chance to ask questions or to be, you know, kept up to speed on some of the things that they're doing with accreditation and some of the stuff regarding police safety.
Isn't there another citizens board? Everybody keeps talking about not the meetings at night with Grice 4 times a year, but isn't there some other citizens board that deals with this? Because Steve brought it up at that combined meeting we had, and somebody else brought it up a couple weeks ago that there's a citizens board to put input in.
I think there's a choice community council. I think is that the one that you're talking about with
I don't know. It could be
Officer Greist?
No, that's the 4 times a year.
Okay.
There's another one, I thought. If you could ask, if you bump into Steve or whatever, ask him, is there another?
Yeah, there's a neighborhood watch group that gets together about, I think that's also about 4 times a year.
I think we can certainly have an agenda item with a Kalia update every meeting going forward until we get back through accreditation.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, and again, so that's all it is. Just making
sure. So it's a
safety.
pointed, specific agenda item, so we make sure we have that conversation every meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So, still, so we'll have a bunch of meetings in October is what it comes down to.
Right. I'm not so sure it's good just to say you're not going to have a Board of Safety meeting. I think you could probably hook some of this information into the Board of Safety. And again, finding out again, but again, we might have to have the initial quick meeting to figure out what kind of search firm, you know, if we got 2 or 3 proposals, which one we're going to take and move forward with that. But that doesn't have to be very long. Okay.
Well, so do you want to put a date on that, or do you want me to just circulate it when you find out? I mean, if it's going to take them 2 weeks and we call for a meeting in a week, that's a waste of time.
I agree. Why don't we look right now at October 1st, having another 7 o'clock meeting on October 1st, and we can cancel it, but that October 1st would give us 3 weeks to get something back to everybody.
That's fine. Is that the Thursday?
That's a Thursday morning.
Yep. 3 weeks, 21 days.
Lauren and I have actually Lauren, Wendy and I have a conflict that morning because of Rotary board meeting.
Well, that's at 7:30. Are you talking about taking more than a half an hour, Chuck?
Yeah,
potentially.
Because it might be, let's see what we can shoot for September 24th. Let's see if we can shoot for that September 24th and just make it a regular board of safety.
And we're not, yeah, and we're not tied to Thursday. I mean, we can make it Friday morning, the first or second,
Yeah.
or Wednesday the 30th.
Put it. Does anybody have a conflict with the that Wednesday or Friday the October 2nd?
I have SWAT on the 30th. The 2nd is fine.
I'm
Second
okay with
works
the
for me.
second.
Me too.
Okay. So let's plan on October 2nd, that Friday, having a board of safety meeting. And as part of one of the items on that board of safety meeting could be to approve the search, the search process, and also the search consultant for whatever we classify that term as.
So that's 7 a.m., right?
Yeah.
In person?
No, not in person. On this thing. I don't know what happened, but just have, in person you can meet, he can come to your house even and set you up. What's his name? You got John Lawrence.
We can also have a hybrid meeting. We could have the town hall be open, and maybe by that time we can figure out a better way of having, if 3 or 4 of us want to be at the town hall, and then we can have the TV on that everybody else, you can see the other people on the screen also. You're on mute, Dave.
Sorry, I didn't think you guys wanted to hear my dogs barking. Just make sure when we sunshine this meeting for October 2nd, that we do it as a regular, or as a regular, it'll be a special meeting, but it's a public meeting, not a study session, because in order to make decisions, we can't have it advertised as a study session.
Right.
Yep.
It's our regular meeting, that's all.
And Chuck, before you send anything out this morning, I'll send you an email when I get into the office. I believe that I have probably the job description. I just can't access those files from my home computer. And I might have an organizational chart as well. You probably have the same information, but just to make sure they're in sync. So I'll get that to you by, it's 8 o'clock now, by 8:30, 9 o'clock. And if I don't have anything, I'll just send you an email. I don't have anything.
Yeah. And why don't we do it this way? I have to be at the town hall for a meeting at 9 o'clock. So I will send out that job description along with the flow chart before noon today, because after my 9 o'clock meeting, I'll talk to Wendy to make sure we send out the right, the one
Okay,
document.
perfect. I'll pull what I have then. Thanks.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions?
Anything, guys?
So you're looking at October 2nd on a Friday for a
Regular
Zoom.
board of safety meeting.
It's a special session board of safety meeting. Special only because it's not its normal time.
Yeah,
Right,
so
Dave? Yeah. And Nancy's out of the office. It doesn't Nancy normally?
he'll be back on the 15th, I think. Somewhere around there. She just had a 2-week vacation. It seems to come up every 2 weeks. But
So just to confirm, next Thursday, which would be our regular meeting, we do not have a meeting.
right,
Okay.
unless there's an emergency. I mean, we're always on call for a meeting should something bad come up. It's not like when I say there's no meeting, there's just no sitting around chewing the fat.
That's what we did for the last hour?
Yep.
Okay. I'm good. I don't have anything else to add.
So Chuck, will you call me as soon as you're done there? So we can coordinate that other thing.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, as soon as you're done, as soon as we hang up on this.
Yeah, no, I'll give you a call.
Okay,
Very good. I thank you, everybody.
okay. Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank- Have a
Bye.
good